about how today, being the Feast of the Presentation, was Jesus coming to the temple. How many of y'all, do you know what the temple was? It was a house of God, right? For the Old Testament people, for the Jewish people. And so the temple was a place where they kept the Ark of the Covenant. Okay? Do you remember what was in the Ark of the Covenant? Anybody? Older kids? Anybody know what was in the Ark of the Covenant? The Ten Commandments, that was one thing. The staff of Aaron. And some of the manna, some of the leftover manna. Okay? So you had three things in the Ark of the Covenant that reminded the people of Israel of God. Right? Because God gave them the Ten Commandments. God worked through Aaron's staff to lead the people and protect them. And God gave them the manna to sustain them as food in the wilderness and in the desert, right? So these were three very important and powerful signs of God's presence. And they were so holy and so special to them that they built this huge temple over it and around it to protect that Ark of the Covenant, right? Because it was the symbols of God's presence. What is Jesus? Who is Jesus? He is God, right? So when Jesus comes into the temple, do we need the Ark of the Covenant anymore? No. Because we don't need symbols of God when we have God, right? All right? So Jesus would tell everybody later on, destroy this temple, and in 3 days I will build it up again. But was he talking about the stone temple? No, what did he raise in 3 days? He raised his body, right? He died, he went to the tomb, and 3 days later he rose. So he was talking about his body being the temple, because remember, the stone temple was for the Ark of the Covenant. Jesus' body was for his soul, his heart, his mind, his divinity, right? The very presence of God was in his body, right? So his body is now the temple. But that's not the end. That's not the end. Because what Jesus really wanted was that all of our bodies would be like an extension of the temple. There's signs back there that show that we're about to work on this building, right? This church. And it's going to get bigger, right? And it's going to be bigger and it's going to be beautiful. We're going to have to add a lot more bricks and stone to do that, right? That's what Jesus wants to do with his body. He wants to get bigger, and so he adds you and you and you and all of us and me and Deacon, and he adds us on, and he expands his presence in the world through all of us by placing his Spirit in us, right? So the temple today is about to get bigger. We're about to add Leo, right? And we don't know how big it's going to get, right? Because we don't know how many more people, first of all, but we also don't know how big Leo's going to be. And I don't mean like 400 pounds. I mean like he's named after a pretty big dude, right? A pope who rocked the world with his teachings and his understanding and his wisdom, right? And so every time we come to a baptism, we pray that the temple gets really big. We pray that when the Spirit enters into Leo, and each person that's baptized, that it's an opportunity and it's a possibility for God to build onto his temple with his glory and his wisdom and his awesomeness to shine in this world a bit brighter, right? And so today, as we celebrate God entering into his temple, we ask God to enter into the temple of Leo.